What's up, guys? It's Brox doing an update video on the Void Forge Guard Shield Throw Shield Basher. I promised you guys it'd be a couple days before I did another update video because I wanted to farm out a couple pieces of gear. I started farming, some crazy stuff happened, some crazy loot happened, and then I kept progressing and I was like, okay, I'll do an update video literally the night after I made that last update video, and then something crazier happened and things just kept snowballing. So I've been chasing kind of a goal to kind of stop myself to put this video together for you guys, and I think I finally hit it where I can start talking to you guys about where the build is at. Before we jump into the build though, I wanted to talk to you guys. This is probably going to be a slightly longer video because I'm going to go over kind of everything in this update video about where we're at and kind of the goals of the build. But before we get there, I wanted to talk to you guys a bit about last Epoch and build expectations. So I know a lot of people when they watch build guides, they're looking for kind of guidance on where to go, and this is no one's fault but my own for not really setting expectations for the build. This was something I kind of just cooked up. I didn't have any pre-access to the patch. I didn't know if this was even going to work. I didn't even know if, what bugs were going to be present, and there definitely are bugs, which really sucks for the build. But it was just something I cooked up before the patch just to say, this looks like it might be viable. I don't know how viable it's going to be. And I think a lot of my fault in setting expectations was this build was definitely not going to be like Judgment Paladin, where all you have to do is literally level a Paladin to the point where you get Judgment, you put it on Vengeance, and you're an unkillable god at 300 corruption. Gear doesn't matter. Nothing really matters, and then you can face tank Aberoth. That was never going to be this build, and I want to apologize up front. I should have probably just prefaced that at some point in the earlier videos that this was never going to be a Uber Aberoth day one build. And you have to understand, like, skills like Judgment are going to get nerfed by Season 3. Like, those are the outlier skills where you don't really need to actually function on gear. Falconer had the same issue when it first launched with Bleed Falcon doing instant 1000 stacks of bleed with one button press, and they are obviously going to fix that. So when you're watching your favorite streamer and you're playing this build early on and you're like, man, I'm doing nowhere near the damage, and you're watching like Woody or Karn or any of the 19 streamers who all played Judgment Paladin in the race just crush through content, you have to understand that that's an outlier build. That's not what you should aspire to when you're doing build craft. You should look for different skills and say to yourself, okay, hey, if I acquire the pieces necessary, can this build be something functional? And this was very much a build where I knew going in that it was going to be very gear dependent. The damage that we have to get onto shield throw has to come from our gear. It's not just select shield throw, get one unique, and all of a sudden you're doing a million DPS. So that's my fault. I should have kind of prefaced that when you start playing this and you take shield throw natively is not going to just crush content on its own. It's not an overtuned skill. It's going to need those amplifiers. It's going to need the more damage from all the different sources from the build when we first talked about it on the first video, is that was always going to be necessary. And I think a lot of people got to like level 65, level 70 and wanted to rush straight through to empowered monoliths and start doing 100 corruption without ever doing the gear prep to get shield throw up to doing enough damage, and then they feel weak when they're fighting the level 90 bosses or the first Harbinger bosses, or they go into Corruption 100 and they're trying to take down a Corruption 100 boss and they have 30k tooltip DPS, and they're wondering, why am I not doing enough damage to actually kill anything? It's because you really haven't gone through the steps to actually acquire the gear. You didn't do any of the build-up steps to take a little bit of time, get the right blessings in place, get the right affixes in place, get your crit in the right place. All that actually matters on this build, and I should have probably prefaced that a little bit earlier. Like, this was never going to be select the skill and instantly get a free Corruption 300 run. You actually have to kind of work to get there. But I knew that when I started getting near empowered monoliths that I was going to need to do some gear prep. So that's what in the last update videos where I left you guys and I said, hey, I'm going to go do some gear prep before I even step foot in empowereds, because I want to make sure the build is going to feel smooth when I get there. So I'm going to preface this too. I have yet to do any empowered bosses yet, largely because I want my first empowered boss and Harbinger kill to be Lagon, and he's the scariest boss for me because his beam can literally just outright kill me. So he's what I'm prepping for right now. I have now, at this point where I'm sitting right now, I think I'm ready to fight Lagon, so he's going to be kind of the next thing that I do. But right this second, I've just been in Corruption 100 farming Lagon's timeline and just kind of doing some prep work there. I may even go do Reign of Dragons without the Harbinger kill just to get the lightning resist and get that capped out, because it's not capped right now. But everything else is kind of where I now feel comfortable fighting some of the bosses at Corruption 100. As far as echo clearing and map clearing, it's as smooth as butter. I can literally stand still as long as nobody's doing damage over time, because our damage over time mitigation is tied to us actually casting shield throw. But if it's just a bunch of physical enemies and they run up and they hit me, I can sit still and play this as a Thorns build at Corruption 100. I could take my hands off the keyboard. My character will kill everything without me even pressing a single button, as long as they don't do damage over time. That's where the build is currently at. So with that said, I wanted to lead in with this saying that I'm still deathless. I have yet to die, so it's talking about like hardcore viability. I am in Corruption 100. I feel like the damage is easily enough to do Corruption 300. I don't feel at all weak in Corruption 100. I think Corruption 300, where I sit this very second, is perfectly doable, both from a damage and survivability standpoint. So I'm comfortable saying that in the next probably day or two, I'm going to push to Corruption 300 just to prove that it's perfectly fine to do Corruption 300 where my current gear is. But I'm deathless at 92, which means that this is 100% hardcore viable. You can get to Corruption 100 and be unkillable at Corruption 100 in hardcore with this build, which is also a nice thing just to be able to say. Like, you guys could do it hardcore, softcore. I'm deathless. I haven't died in softcore, and it's just been a breeze. And it's also been really cozy. It's been a nice kind of casual build. Having range and being able to just sit back and wipe everything off the map from a distance is very relaxing. You can see kind of where all my different resistances are at. Though you have to take into account the necrotic, the void, and the lightning will be undercapped once I start casting because of the negative 20%. We're going to obviously focus on getting that fixed by killing Lagon and hope we get the negative 20% all res. And then we do have quite a bit of health now. So last update, I think we were at like 1400 HP. We're up to about 2100 HP. Our armor is also up because we did some prep there to get our armor increased by getting our Champion's Regalia and our helmet. So our armor has jumped up significantly, and then with all the buffs and everything that happens, we're pretty much near, I think, that 85% armor cap when we're in combat. We are also at 114% crit chance, which is actually, I think, closer to 143 when all the buffs go off. And we're missing 10%. It should technically be about 153 block chance right now, but with the bug, we're not getting the extra 10%. And that comes with an extra 60% of damage reduction all the time. And then our boots are still giving us that negative 35% damage over time reduction, which means as long as I'm throwing a shield, I'm pretty much an unkillable god. Nothing can really do any damage to me. The only time I've even come close to dying is I've just gotten tired and I stopped casting my shield, not realizing I have a dot on me, and my health just drastically drops. So even when you kill something, and it's really important with this build if you're going to try it in hardcore, when you kill anything, keep casting your shield until you make sure you don't have any debuffs or dot effects on you. Because if you stop casting with a dot on you, you can instantly die, just for how dots work in this game. But as long as you're throwing the shield with the gear that I have on, you should be perfectly fine. Pop a potion if something gets really scary, but just never stop casting the shield because it's giving you that damage over time mitigation. I'll go over that a little bit more in detail when we look at the gear. Currently, we're at 76% throwing attack speed, but with the minus 10% reduction, it's 66%. We have 207% crit multi, but that is actually 337 crit multi because of our gloves, which I'll go over in a second. We're probably close, if I had to guess right now, around 60 to 70%. I'd have to run the math on critical strike. We're missing 2 places getting that to cap. We'll be really close to getting it to 100% shortly, but I would say we're probably around 60% critical strike chance. So we're 60% of the time we're getting that 337% multiplier, which is a ton of extra damage. Our increased throwing attack damage is at 117%. And then we have a ton of flat damage now from our damage reflected to attackers, which is about 180 extra flat when we throw the shield, and that is getting Rygarth's Fury right now, so it is getting that extra 150% more multi. And then of course we're crit immune, so we can't be crit. So yeah, super tanky. What does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, it means we're sitting at 185,280 DPS without our buffs, outside of Symbols of Hope, because they're always active. So this, with Symbols of Hope, we're at 185,280. If we go blap blap, we're at 229,000 damage per second with our 4-second procs. So we're strong. We're very strong right now at the 230,000 DPS. And that is with a ton of headroom for more damage. We are missing a ton of damage all over the place, truthfully. I think with all the damage that is missing, if it was calculated in, we would probably be between 400 and 500,000 tooltip DPS. If the shield wall bug wasn't active, we would then be around at max. So right now, if the if the 2 bugs weren't active, the haste bug and the shield wall bug, if neither of those bugs existed, we would be roughly around 1.4 million DPS right now, because we throw 2 shields a second. Those shields would hit the boss 3 times each, so you do 6 times 225,000, which is 1.35 million DPS, and then with the haste extra 15% more multi that we're missing, we would be right around 1.4, a little over 1.4 million DPS as we sit. If those 2 bugs weren't there and this was functioning normally, that 1.4 million DPS would make killing bosses smooth as silk. It would be so smooth. From probably Corruption 100 all the way up to Corruption 300. After that, we would have to start actually getting and pushing that tooltip DPS up towards that 500,000 mark. And then at 500,000, you would be around 3 million DPS if you had like perfect gear, in my opinion. So capped out, you'd probably be looking at 3 million DPS with no bugs and perfect gear. We're probably running half that right now, so close to half of that marker. That's how much headroom is still left in the build from all the different damage sources we're still missing. So what does that look like gear-wise? Well, really good. We've had insane luck with gear. I'll start from the top down. Actually, we'll start with the helmet. So the helmet has throwing critical strike chance, +2 to shield throw, 10% increased health, and then our damage reduction to get us crit cap or crit immune. You'll notice that this isn't exalted, so I don't have an exalted helm yet, which means that we're leaving +2 shield throw points on the table. Those 2 points don't actually affect our damage all that much, because one goes into minus mana reduction and the other one goes into a 25% increase in our armor shred, which does lead to a little bit more damage, but it's not going to drastically change the build. So the extra 2 points that we're missing here from shield throw really isn't going to sway the damage too much. So this helm is good as it sits, even though it's not exalted. We're still using the same exact neck that we were using before. Notate that this should be flat throwing damage and critical strike chance. We don't have one of those yet, and I haven't come close to seeing one, though it's going to be next on kind of the list of things that we need to upgrade so that we can get that critical strike chance pushed towards the 100% mark, and we can get to that extra flat damage to, again, start increasing the overall damage output of the build. Right now, we do get the plus 12% more damage from Void Penetration, and the 42% increased Void damage is still really good, plus the resistances are helping at the moment until we can get all the resistances kind of ironed out. Our champion's regalia is not that great either, because it's exalted on the health, which is giving us that ton of extra health that we have, but we really needed the vitality to be that extra critical strike chance and for that to be exalted. If we could have gotten the extra critical strike chance to be exalted, we would also be much, much closer to being at the 100% crit, and that's going to drastically change our damage over time, or damage per second. So we're hunting both critical strike on our neck and on our chest so that we can get that 100% critical strike chance. Once we get that, the more multiplier that we're going to get is going to just skyrocket the damage on the build. I'm going to skip over the uniques. We'll go over them in just a second. The rings are insane. So we have a 23% throwing attack speed ring with plus 22 flat and minus 5 mana throwing cost. I got this early on, and that came with tier 5 block chance and cold res, which we definitely needed, and then fizz sealed, and I just mirrored it. So I put on 2 of these. Our damage went up like 20,000 just from putting on 2 of these rings. Both of them have 31% extra critical strike chance, which is on the lower end of the implicit value. But the overall benefit of this ring for right now is incredible because it has everything that we want on the ring. It's just not the best rolls. We really want the T7 to be on the throwing attack speed, and then we want T5, 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 or optimal would obviously be T7 on the first one, T6 on the throwing damage and the minus mana cost, but we don't unfortunately have that capability right now. So we are also hunting better rings. That's going to increase our damage. Again, like I said, we have a lot of overhead on damage that's still left on the table because while 22 flat is nice, it's nowhere near as good as having T7 attack speed on both of the rings. So a lot of overhead still on the rings from a damage perspective. Our belt is also not oriented towards maximum damage output, and we could be doing a lot more here. The T7 again is on the health, or I'm sorry, the Exalted is on the health, but it should be on the flat throwing damage. If we had a T7 flat throwing damage with increased void damage, health, and then the cold res could be cooldown reduction would be optimal, then we would have a really good belt. But this isn't bad, right? Like, this is a really good belt. This is an insane belt, actually, just for where we're at currently in Corruption 100. There's nothing wrong with having this belt or these rings. So don't think like, oh my god, they're not perfect rings. They're all insane. These are insane gear pieces. It's just they could be better. We could get more damage out of all of these pieces that is being left on the table. Just showing you that even at 230,000 DPS, we're nowhere near the ceiling of this build. We're probably about halfway to the damage output of the build. And then the other part for our uniques is the relic is still garbage. So it is still the same garbage relic. I have not had any luck with Code of Array Sentinels. I've had like 4 of them so far. All of them have rolled nothing of value. So no void damage, no crit multi, no symbols of hope levels, which is what we really need. None of them have been good. It's been awful. So I'm going to put some effort into finding a good Code of Array Sentinel because the extra symbol of hope, the 5th one, would also skyrocket our damage by giving us more block chance, more block effectiveness, which is crit multi, and the extra flat void damage, which we don't have. So again, more damage is left off on the table. Our boots are still the god boots. Again, these boots are going to be around for a long time. I do have 3 pairs of transient rest. 2 of them are 2 LP and rolled decently well. I'm just looking for the right pair of boots to slam into them, and I'll have them on the back burner when I'm ready to swap over when and if I need the extra resistances from transient rest. If I don't find myself needing the resistances, I may stick with these boots just because the 35% less damage taken over time is really saving my butts in a lot of these fights because it just nullifies out damage over time. It's just really good. So these boots may stick around for the long haul. I haven't really decided yet. It really depends if transient rest is desperately needed for the resistances or not, because damage over the time is truthfully really scary in Last Epoch. Alright, for the Triforce of Perfection pieces, we're going to start with the sword. We got max T7 roll, 320% crit chance, and I have a 2 LP Dreamthorn in my bank that is 19% block chance, so 1% less block chance, but more block effectiveness. and the 2LP would allow me to possibly slam 320% crit chance with crit multi, which that extra crit multi is still left on the table. So I can actually show you that in the Weaver tree. It's this one, which is 1 off max block chance, but 442% block effectiveness for that extra crit multi. And with the 2LP, we could get crit strike and crit multi, which means that we have more crit multi that is still on the table for more damage. So hopefully you guys are catching on that 229,000 is nowhere near where this build's potential is going to be. So when you see people saying like, I'm not doing enough damage with the build, there's not enough damage in the build, there's so much damage left on the table in this build that I'm not even halfway there. Like, I'm still hunting more damage in this build. Lyrakas, we have a 2LP Lyrakas, and I'm hunting for a better roll for the crit multi. If I get a 2LP Lyrakas, then I'll have more flat coming from Lyrakas as well. So there's a lot left on the table across the board. So crit multi is missing from the sword, but we have a sword for that. We just need to find the right exalted weapon to get the benefit of that. So that's the first T7 max roll. Second T7 max roll, we have a T7 perfect block chance, which again is more hit damage for the build. So this is a near perfect shield, +3 to shield throw, +15% block chance. The only thing we could get more damage out of is if the 73 damage reflected to attackers was at 115. It would be an extra 5 flat damage, but it is extra damage. So there is still damage left off the shield. If that was a better damage reflected to attackers, we would pick up an extra 5 flat throwing damage, which we just unfortunately don't have. But everything else here is incredible. This shield is going to be around for a long time. If we had a 2LP version of this shield, then obviously I would go with damage reduction, but you could pick up more damage by getting block effectiveness as your second roll and get more crit multi if you wanted even more damage. But I would personally take damage, I think it's like 9 damage reduction per block, and since we have 100% block chance, everything gets blocked, which is just a flat 9% of damage reduction. That to me is just really, really good. It's hard to pass up solid defenses when it's flat damage reduction. So that's what I would personally go with. Then to finish off the T7 God rolls, we have a T7 max 36% throwing attack speed with 2 off cap throwing critical strike multi Lyraka's claws. These are insane. My damage went up like 70,000 DPS when I put on these gloves. Just absolutely absurd. But again, if we had a 2LP version of this, we could add more throwing flat damage to the build, and that's still left on the table. So we still have damage here that's not calculated in from it not being 2LP. I have not found a single in 92 levels and running a ton of tombs. Every map that is a cemetery or a tomb, I run it because I need a lot of these idols. I have yet to find a single 3% void penetration with flat damage reflected combo. I have found a lot of them individually, but I have not found one that is a combo between both of them, which is really annoying because we need a lot of them. We need, what is that, 12, 13, 14? We need 14 of them, and I haven't found a single one in 92 levels. But between all of the ones I have found, we have 3% void pen here, flat damage here, void pen here, flat damage here, flat damage here, flat damage here, flat damage here, crit, flat damage, crit, flat, void pen with void extra damage. So this one actually had extra void damage. Flat, void pen, flat, flat. So what we really want, we want something like this one with the 3% void pen with a 147 or higher to that 150 mark flat damage. I haven't found a single one with those two together, which if I ever do, I'll tell you guys. But that shows you that we still have so much damage left on the table within our idols. Because every single one of these flat damage idols that does not have void pen on it, all of these could have void pen. And if all of them had void pen, we'd probably have another 35% more damage multi on top of the crit multi we're missing here. and on top of the more damage from the haste bug that we're missing there, that would all be multiplicative more damage on top of our current damage. And we don't have that within these idols yet. So there's a lot of damage from the idols that is still left on the table. And then the idol here, which is really good, is a void conversion idol with the shred armor, about 40%. It could be better, it could be 54%. And I've enchanted it with T6 critical strike. This isn't perfect. If you look at the build planner, it should be T7 critical strike with a T5 void damage, I think is the second one that it could be. I have had one of my enchantments roll, I think it was like T4 crit with T3 void, but it wasn't as good as just getting more crit. So I re-enchanted it. I stuck with this one for now. I'm waiting to get another duplicate of this idol where it has the shred armor and the void conversion, and then I'll spin that one until I get the right rolls, and then it'll eventually replace this one. But this for right now at T6 is the best possible capability for damage output, so I'm leaving it as is until I get a duplicate version of this idol, and then I'll use that one to fish out the double enchantments on it. Blessings. We have the max 6% experience blessing. We still have the void damage blessing. This needs to be converted to void shred, which we'll obviously be farming for here in Corruption 100 to get the max blessing for the void shred version of this, which will give us even more damage because we'll be able to shred resistances, which will be a more multiplier rather than a 46% increased multiplier, or I'm sorry, increased damage rather than a multiplier. So there's more damage here in the blessings that's still on the table. We have lightning resistance. We're working on this now so that we can get over the lightning resistance cap by getting the powered version of this blessing at 75%. And then our lightning res will be perfectly fine. We have 12% all res. Obviously, we need to get this to the max, the 20% all res, so that we can offset the shield throw negative 20% all res. So that's obviously going to be one of the things we're going to be working on. We do have the block chance block effectiveness node, but we need the advanced version of this because we'll get even more damage from both of these sources. We'll get more damage on our hits for the block chance, and we'll get crit multi for the block effectiveness. So there's still more damage in this blessing that's left on the table. And then this one should be armor. So when we do end up getting this from the Corruption 100 bosses, this will be an extra armor node, which, as I stated before, we're also really good on armor. But imagine there's another 400 armor that should be there. That's from this blessing, which we don't currently have yet. So we're going to be working on that as well. And then for passives, we're also still missing damage from Void Waves, which is going to give us, I think it's plus 24 extra flat. And that plus 24 extra flat damage is also not calculated currently into that 229,000, which is all going to get amplified by our multipliers. So we still have 8 more levels to go before level 100, and that all 8 of those levels is going to give us more damage. The takeaway is, when you see a lot of the comments on the update videos, or when you see a lot of the comments on the original build video saying, I'm not doing any damage, I'm not doing any damage, it's because you haven't farmed the gear. You have to take the time to actually build the character and work on the gear. A lot of these pieces, a lot of these perfect T7 pieces, I farmed in non-empowereds. I didn't even do Corruption 100. A lot of this was farmed in 90 monos, and some of it even in 75 monos. So you can do it without rushing to Corruption 100. All Corruption 100 does is give you an extra chance for better drops. It doesn't mean that you can't get T7 drops in non-Corruption 100 echoes or monos. You can do normal monos and get T7s. The big thing is just working on your Circle of Fortune. The T7, twice as common at rank 9. If you can get here, you can do normal monos and get T7s pretty consistently. And I just grab prophecies, so like Immortal Eye, Exalted Two-Handed Swords, or Death of Abomination at no corruption with 3 Exalted Swords, or Death of Lagan with 12 corruption, and then I just do 2 Shades of Orbis in Lagan's things to have 12 corruption, and then I just farm him with 12 corruption. With the rank 9, I'll get T7s. That's how I actually got this T7 max roll, was in the level 75 mono, the normal mono. I was just farming prophecies super fast at low corruption with that rank 9 T7, and that's how I got this T7. So you don't have to, like, don't chase streamers doing level 65 judgment runs because they chose a broken skill. You don't have to do that to acquire power in last Epoch. It's nice, and the prep that I put in normals means that I can now cruise to corruption 300. It won't take me that long to actually get there because I'm juiced now from normals. So you can do that too. It's entirely possible that you don't have to rush to corruption. You don't have to chase what the streamers are doing to enjoy the game or to make a build that is, you know, fun to play and can still get you through the content. It may just take you a little bit longer because you're not just picking judgment and winning the game. So it's a little extra steps. With all that said, what does it look like? So when we hit the enemy with that, you can start seeing it ramp. Wait for Ring of Shields to come out. So you're looking at about 115. I feel like I'm doing a little less damage than I should, but I'm not entirely sure why. Earlier it was doing about 122,000. Now it's doing about 116. But yeah, it's somewhere in that range. It's between 116,000 and 122,000 per hit with the shield, and you hit twice with 2 shields, which brings you to, you know, obviously that 229,000 that we were talking about. So let's go do. Oh, my cape is all messed up. That happens all the time. I don't know, like Arena Dragons Echo, so you guys can see what this looks like in real time. Powered. First one is experience, so let's do it. And I'll show you with, as long as they don't do damage over time, I can stand still and treat this as a Thorns build. Nothing can kill me that isn't damage over time. They just kill themselves because the shield retaliates with shield throw. So 26% chance to retaliate with shield throw. We have 100% block chance. So this is a true 26%, or 1 in 4 hits will kill. So I don't even have to. Oh, see, the damage over time is scary. You just got to be careful with damage over time. But as long as you, hold on, let me see. We had to get one where there was all damage over time mobs. Oh, that's Ghost. Hold on. Here's a champion mob. He's dead. He doesn't even get to play the game. Is he gonna? No. Alright, let's see if we can. I'm trying to figure out which one is throwing the damage over time stuff. Okay, here we go. They're all dead. Just hitting me kills pretty much everything at corruption 100. Oh, it's the big guy. He died. Okay, next. Oh, here you go. They're all dead. That was retaliate. Retaliate through 1 shield, everything there died. So when people are like, hey, I don't do enough damage in corruption 100. Oh, here you go. Just stand in it. Keep casting so that you don't die to dot. Alright, now I'll start actually trying. So we'll go, apparently we needed to go south. Grab those. Alright, let's go south. I'll even do the tomb so you guys can see what a tomb looks like. So we'll go down. And this is what I'm saying too, like, I'm pretty positive. Which way is she going? I'm pretty positive that with this damage, she's going the other. Nope, she's coming towards me. That I could do Corruption 300 with this damage. Like, Corruption 300 is not going to be that much more significant than how fast things are dying here. Like, I instantly kill everything with a single shield. And then for slightly bigger things, that was the whole boss of this this Echo. So you see how I'm slowly dying from that damage over time because I was standing in the poison. You have to be careful with that. If I stop casting, that damage actually starts ticking, and you can die. So you just gotta always just as long as you're doing this, you have the damage reduction. Regardless if you're hitting an enemy or not, you have the damage reduction because you have haste. Alright, let's do this tomb. My assumption is we're going to get damage over time mobs in here too because they're outside.
I cannot do that.
Oh, we got the good shrine. I don't like these tombs because I always have to figure out which way's the wrong way so that we don't have to backtrack too much. I think this is the wrong way, yeah. Getting carried by a shrine right now. Shrine is cracked. Okay. Maybe doing this video will be my good luck charm to getting my first dual idol that I need from in here.
Stand down or die.
Another thing I know a lot of people have been asking me for is my loot filter. I'm not hesitant in sharing it with you guys because I think it's special or anything. It's just it changes. I mean, every couple runs I'm changing it. I have no finite filter. The best way I can explain it is I need different things at different points, and the filter is never going to be right for every period of leveling in the character. So sometimes I'm looking for T6 rolls for some reason, or sometimes I'm looking for specific pieces, and I'll adjust for that so that I make sure I can see them. I will give you one tip in a second once we finish this run in regards to something everybody should be doing in their loot filter, which is this blue thing right here. Great timing. Is having a filter for every item, all affixes at T7. And I'll explain why in a second. I'll actually use that piece too to explain it. Alright, here comes the boss.
I cannot do that.
Boss down. Make sure we don't die from anything. Grab. Did we get our first one? No, but we get a plus 3% void pen and a plus 1% void pen. I am having no luck with a void pen flat idols. It would be very nice to get a couple of them. Alright. And that was the Echo. That's how easy it was. I can play Thorns at one level Corruption 100. My damage is good enough for Corruption 300 without question. So for people who, again, don't read into, oh, it doesn't do enough damage, oh, it's not going to be able to do Corruption 300. This build is going to blow by Corruption 300. If I had to guess, it's going to do Corruption 800 at max damage. It probably could do a little bit more than that if you had like perfect gear with all the right idols and all the right 2LP items. I don't think this is going to have any issue doing anything from all the way up to possibly even Corruption 1000. It's just going to take a long time to get all those items and all the pieces correctly kind of slotted in. But if I'm at 230,000 in 5 days into the season, there's plenty of time to optimize this build out and really take it to a really fun place. And again, it's just really fun. It's cozy. I don't have to like think about much. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't even proc Ring of Shields or Shield Bash until I got to the boss because I just wanted to make sure I had the extra damage amp. The actual run through of the normal Echo is just super smooth. I don't even have to use, like, I can one button it just by walking with WASD and doing this. I don't have to use my buffs until I need them, or until I need like an oh crap button to get the extra damage out if I needed to kill something. Now I will say the biggest enemy that scared me and actually nearly killed me was the Void Sworn Nemesis mob. So if you get the Void Sworn Nemesis, he does this weird large radius of floating void orbs around him. And those orbs hit for a ton of damage. And that nearly killed me and gave me my first death. I had to Healing Hands away, which is why Healing Hands exists, because it makes me invulnerable and it gives me healing. And a lot of people ask me, why do you use Healing Hands? It's because invulnerability is broken and it saves lives, and it's going to save my life on Lagan, I'm sure, when I get caught by the beam and I have to Healing Hands through it. But yeah, that's why Healing Hands is there, is to make sure that I remain deathless. And that's important to me because it just shows me that the build is hardcore viable as well. Now, about this belt. So let me show you the loot filter so that you guys can understand. So in the loot filter, there's this line here, and it says 7 types, 7 tiers, 195 affixes. The types are the gear I'm using. So two-handed sword, which is what we farm for. Helmet, body armor, belt, and gloves. These are all our non-unique spots. Our boots are unique, but our helmet's not, our body armor's not. Our belt and our gloves to slam and our sword to slam are not. And then our amulet and our rings are not uniques. So all of these matter. And then it's every affix in the entire game. So all your affixes, so your class affixes, your ailments, your others, everything, all of them. You need all of them. And then you need to set the advanced option to more or equal to tier 7, which is the max tier. Why? And I find this silly that this has to exist because it's counterproductive to a loot filter. But the reason it has to exist is because of 2 runes. The Havoc rune, which shuffles the tier of non-sealed affixes on an exalted item with 4 non-sealed affixes. And then it gives you an example of how it moves the tiers around. And why this is important is because if you get, so let's assume for a second you get a two-handed sword like this one. I'll show you with this two-handed sword. Let's say you get a two-handed sword, but the T7 roll is here in the suffix and it has an open prefix. So instead of like melee attack speed here, maybe I can get lucky. Hold on. Lucky one time. Beautiful. Okay. Here, this is going to be a great example. So let's say this dropped. Well, if you didn't have that line in the loot filter, you'd never see this item because you're probably not going to put in your loot filter that you want to see a T7 increased stun chance with melee attacks, because it's not going to be a primary thing most people leave in a loot filter to search for. You're probably searching for crit or crit multi. But let's say I was going for critical strike chance, right? Which I often am. That's how we get T7 critical strike chance on my sword, right? That's an important stat for me. Well, I don't care about any of these stats, but I want a T7 critical strike chance. Well, I go here and I add critical strike chance to the item, right? And now with Rune of Havoc, I have the potential to move this T7 to critical strike chance. And if that happens, then I have extra, will hopefully have the extra forging potential to roll it to 320% with the Rune of Refinement. So that's a quick way to try to get T7 on a stat that you actually care about. Now another way you can do this is if the T7 is on the prefix side. So instead of the suffix side, it was over here on the prefix side. And let's say it was, so it was a T7 melee attack speed and a physical damage here. This Rune of Redemption, will randomly change that exalted affix within the prefixes to another T7 prefix, which is another chance for you to get T7 critical strike chance by converting it. And again, you wouldn't see that if you weren't filtering for T7 melee attack speed. If you were only filtering for T7 critical strike chance, you would not be able to use the benefits of these two runes, the Rune of Havoc and the Rune of Redemption. You would just not be getting the benefits of these drops and being able to use these runes. So I'm going to burn this Rune of Havoc, and what we're going to hope for is that the T7 here goes to critical strike chance. Now, I will tell you I've had absolutely no luck with this, but maybe for the video we'll get lucky. We didn't. It went to melee attack speed. My life. But you can see kind of what just happened, right? So here the stun chance was the T7. It moved to the prefix. If it had hit crit strike chance, we would still have forging potential to then refine. So if we look at this right now, we're at 92. I mean, this is I'll just do it for the video, but this is near perfect melee attack speed. If I wanted that 96% chance, I could just Rune of Refinement, 83, 82, 91. Okay, we lost 2%. But if you had more forging potential, you could filter this out to generate the 320% critical strike chance, which is what I did. I actually moved the T7 into crit with a Havoc rune, and then I refined it to get the 320%, the perfect roll. And that's how I did the 36% here. That's how I did the 26% here. And that's how I did the 320% here. I use these two runes, the Rune of Redemption and the Rune of Havoc, and then refine once I get them on the stat that I want it on. So don't sleep on this in your loot filter. So everybody, every class, everybody should have this exact thing in their loot filter to take advantage of the Rune of Havoc and the Rune of Redemption, because it's the fastest way to get perfected uniques in the game right now. Just to give you kind of an oversight of the changes that have happened in the loot filter, so I have recolors for helmet, and that's level to shield throw, because as I told you guys, I don't have an exalted shield throw helmet, so I'm targeting, I want to see it recolored green when there's a plus shield throw on a helmet. For Champion's Regalia, I need the double crit, so I've recolored for that as well. And then for the Great Helm, if it is a Great Helm that doesn't have it, it will be red if it doesn't have the shield throw already, but at least I'll be able to see it as a recolor that it is a Leon Great Helm, and then I could pick it up and kind of craft it like I just showed you and try to get the T7 shield throw that I want on it. I still show all uniques and legendaries. I still filter for everything else. The only thing that changed here is I did all of my rare affix farming, so I unchecked them as I went. So I no longer have all the levels of different things. I've shattered all of these out so that I don't have to see them anymore, and then I removed them from my filter so that I don't have to pick them up anymore. So my filter now is extremely strict for where I'm currently at. So I'm currently looking for upgrades to my helmet, which is the main upgrade right now, upgrades to my chest for the extra critical strike chance, and then I'll slowly start picking off my accessories. So my rings need to be better, my neck needs to be better, my belt needs to be better, and then after all that gets handled, then I start the 2LP grind. So 2LP on my Dreamthorn. Stygian's Reprisal is just extra defense, but it would be nice. 2LP for my Lyrakas, and then a Code of Erased Sentinel. This is probably going to be much higher on my list too. So probably the Helm, the Chest, and Code of Erased are going to be the three primary things that I start working on. And then after that, I'll move to the accessories, and then it'll be the 2LP grind for the Lyrakas and the Dreamthorn to really get that extra damage out. And then obviously running as many tombs and as many cemeteries to find one of these freaking mystical 3% void pen with flat damage reflected to attackers, so that I can actually start filling out the 14 I need, and I haven't seen a single one in 92 levels, so good luck to my soul. I don't think this is ever going to happen, but if it did, our damage would obviously go up every single time we find one of those. So that's what I'm working on. That's where the build is currently at. For the people who are like, I don't see this being able to do Corruption 100, it breezes Corruption 100. It'll breeze Corruption 300. It's just going to be a little slower on bosses because we don't get the benefit of the Ring of Shield ally ricochets. And if that bug ever gets fixed, you won't even have to worry about if it would do bosses well, because it will shred bosses if it could ricochet off of the boss and off of the shields back and forth and ping pong as it should. If it could ping pong, then everything you saw would be 3 times faster. So when I killed that boss in Tombs, that boss kill would be 3 times faster than what you just saw at Corruption 100. So build is good, build is cozy, build does a crap ton of damage, and it still has a ton of damage overhead. You just have to put in the time and the investment to get the gear. So good luck to everybody. Hope this update helped. Hope the information helped. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. For everybody saying, why didn't you go fire? It does 120,000 tooltip DPS. It's because I do 229,000 DPS as Void. That's what we're talking about, baby. Void. All right, I'm out. You guys have a good one.